Elisa Wahl. I'm a longtime homeschool mom. And in addition to being a homeschool mom, I'm one of the founders of Nevada Homeschool Network. So Nevada Homeschool Network was started in 2000, 2001, when there were some rumors coming down that homeschooling was going to become more restrictive in our state. And I didn't want any part of that. So we formed Nevada Homeschool Network, and we've been in existence since then. We're the ones that wrote our homeschooling laws. We love our homeschooling laws, and I love talking about them all day long. And then in addition to being a homeschool mom, I really wanted to focus on options for parents. So I was one of the board members on the State Public Charter School Authority Board when it first opened. I held that seat for 5 years, helping open and close charter schools in the state of Nevada. So I love talking about options, but homeschooling is my baby. Bottom line is I want parents to know what options they have, and maybe one works for one kid or another works for this year, whatever. As long as you have options and you're in the control seat,
right?
Your kid will do so much better, and right now we're in this time where so many parents are saying, I just don't know what to do. This distance learning isn't working. I don't know what to do. I think every parent should know all of their options.
Absolutely. And most of Southern Nevada knows that you're the one to go to ask questions of. Can you tell me about your RISE Resource Center?
Yep. So I run another nonprofit in town called RISE Resource Center. We're not open right now because of the mask mandate. We had supplemental classes for students learning from home. So if you took on homeschooling or even distance learning from school and you wanted more social opportunities or more specialized class, you could take one in our building. Right now, we're not offering any classes other than my introduction to homeschooling and different workshops and consulting things that I offer.
What would you guys normally offer for classes?
We've ranged in everything from beginning reading to dyslexia help to biology with labs to theater, a public speaking course. We really, whatever, and we don't hire teachers, we hire people that are passionate about their topic.
Oh, okay. They have background in it. They love it. They want to teach it and share the love for it.
Yeah. So it's really whatever our community members want to say, hey, I've got free time this year. I'd love to teach this. I'd love to teach that. So it fluctuates from year to year.
That's amazing. So you talked about different options that parents have for schooling, and I'm sure I'm not covering all of it, but charters, magnet, homeschooling, unschooling, distant learning, it all, and of course, public school and private are in their own genre. I think most of us think those are the only two options, public school and private school, but there's so much more in between. Can you quickly break up? One thing that people have the most misconceptions about, I have found, is the difference between a charter and a magnet.
Yeah. So public school is such an umbrella. It's over our neighborhood district zone schools. But public schools are publicly funded. And so that we have charter schools under public school umbrella, but they have their own boards. So everyone knows Clark County School District is out there having their big board meetings that you can go to. That's for the district schools. And then we have our charter schools who have their own boards. So if you wanted to talk about something happening at a Pinecrest or Doral, you would go to those school board meetings and talk about it. So it's a little bit more local control. And each of those charter schools can have their own thrust. Maybe they have an arts integrated program or a science STEM program. So the charter schools are really a little bit more unique and have a little bit more local control. They still are publicly funded. They still have to adhere to state standards. So they still fall under the umbrella of public schools. Magnet schools fall under your district school. And now they're opening them up to more people. Before it was an application based. Some of them are now open enrollment.
Really? I thought they were all lottery.
Well, a lottery, but instead of an application like we're going to pick and choose you or you or you,
Right.
now it's more of an open enrollment as far as a lottery goes. It's not so much academic based anymore.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So some of them, like LVA, they'll still have their own requirements. But a lot of the other magnet schools, it's going to be lottery based. So the magnet schools are still public schools, but they have that certain thrust as well. So maybe they're a STEM school, or they focus more on, pre-med or something like that, automobile, career and tech things. So public school just encompasses so many different varieties of schools. Parents really need to know they don't need to just look at their neighborhood school. And then, of course, there's private school. Everyone knows that. And then there's homeschooling. So you mentioned a couple terms. Homeschooling is the legal umbrella. You could public school, private school, or homeschool. And then within homeschooling, there's all sorts of different types of philosophies. So we encourage parents, listen, when you're starting homeschool, you don't need to recreate public school at home.
Right.
And that is the most common misconception we hear all the time. And that's why parents will say, oh, I tried homeschooling and I failed and I put them back in school. And I'm like, you can't fail at homeschooling. Homeschooling means you're in charge.
Right.
I really think it's that misconception that they have to recreate public school and they don't know how to do it, and the kid isn't listening because they're trying to do 8 hours of schoolwork a day. And I'm like, no. Let's talk about how kids learn, not about how schools run. That's always my big thing. Learn about how children learn.
Absolutely.
Like that. So
Absolutely.
it's one of those terms. It's a philosophy of learning that homeschoolers can incorporate. There's lots of philosophies of learning.
I see. So when I say unschoolers and oh gosh, now all of a sudden I can't think of any, but there's a ton of them. There's a whole bunch of different theories.
Yeah, eclectic homeschooling, Charlotte Mason. These are all just different types of philosophies of homeschooling.
How would a parent, if a parent was looking into what would, if you're just starting out, it can be very overwhelming and daunting. What would you suggest for a parent who's interested in looking into that?
So first, take my introduction to homeschooling workshop, because I will blow away a lot of myths and fears and just lay out the laws. And once you get a handle on the laws and you really understand you're the director, everything is much easier.
I think that's the hard part is I get a lot of questions about, well, how do I know that they're up to standard? How do I know their reading ability? I'm following that they actually are fifth grade ability or their math levels.
So we have so much flexibility, and the way we wrote our homeschooling laws was for premier freedom, because freedom allows you to individualize.
Mm-hmm.
So in a classroom, you might have 20, 30 kids, little Jimmy's down here, little Susie's up here, and then Johnny's in the middle, and you've got to try to meet all their needs. And that's hard. At home, we can, and your administrator has already set your budget, you've already bought your curriculum.
Right.
Little Jimmy doesn't understand that workbook or that method, now you're kind of sunk. But at homeschooling, you can work with their interest, their level. If you buy a curriculum that doesn't work, sell it, move on to something else. Because you have that freedom, you can really tailor your children's education. And that's really one of the biggest perks of homeschooling, is the ability to individualize it.
I think that was one of my favorite parts of homeschooling. My three daughters they were all differently styled in their learning capabilities, understanding. So we even do you remember Sid the Science Kid?
Mm-hmm.
We would do his experiments. We would just pause the TV, do the experiment, then we'd reflect and see, did we come up with the same thing? And I thought, I'm not really, I'm obviously just playing. We're not really doing school. Then when I actually started teaching in school, I realized these are things that they already know, and they're going into 5th and 6th grade because we were playing nonstop. And you really forget that the moments in life are learning moments. These are learning opportunities, and just spending a little bit extra explanation is, well, that's education.
Educational lifestyle. If you live
Yes.
educational lifestyle and you see the learning all around, that is so helpful. But again, so many parents are coming from the mindset learning looks like sit down at the table with a workbook from 9 to 3, raise your know, and that's just not how most kids learn best. And I guarantee most school teachers, I'm the product of 2 public school teachers. If they could run their classrooms like I do homeschooling, they'd be so pleased. But you can't. There's administration and there's budgets and there's testing and
It's
all.
hard. It's definitely hard. And coming from a homeschooling mindset and going into teaching, I have felt I have just charts and charts and charts of this child did this today, and tomorrow I'm going to hit this with them. And this child, you do that for, I don't know, anywhere from 25 to 35 kids. And it takes a lot of time, but you feel like that individualized learning pattern is so important. And then I come home and I'm spent. I just don't have the energy for my own children.
Let me go back. Your question was, how do parents start? And I said,
Yes.
workshop, which I believe is super important, but you can do it without coming to my workshop. So legally, they would withdraw. Now, I get parents all the time saying, my principal wanted to meet with me, or said I had to meet with the guidance counselor, or asked what we could do different.
Really?
Would they do that if you were moving because of a job transfer? No. No. You have the right to withdraw your child anytime you want. Please,
So, any time of the year.
They're your child. Anytime you want to withdraw them, you can. So it's very simple. You write out, I'm withdrawing little Susie to homeschool, signed mom.
That's it. You don't have to have it notarized or like all these expert.
The school has the right to ask for it in writing and ask where you're going because they have to track your student. So me as being withdrawn to homeschool. Bye-bye. Turn in your Chromebook, turn in anything you have, and you're done. And then within 10 days, you have to file the notice of intent to homeschool paperwork. And we couldn't have made this simpler. And it's widely available 2 websites, riseresourcecenter.org and nevadahomeschoolnetwork.com. Educational plans there. They want an educational plan attached to the notice of intent. And this is where I tell parents, especially at this point in the year, everyone's worried about, what do I buy for a curriculum? No, you've got a few months left. You need to just focus on learning, okay? So looking at the educational plans that we have available, which are subjects and topics, and some of those as unit studies. What is the scientific method? What is a plant cell? What is an animal cell? What are magnets? What are different types of communities? Look at these different bullet points and run with them.
That's beautiful.
$1,000 right now. It's crazy. And that $1,000 might not even help your child learn right now. They're so bogged down in, sitting there on the computer for hours. They just want to run free. Great. Let them run free. Go on a hike. Learn about different types of trees. Go look at different fossils, types of rocks. Get them off of the computer.
Get them outside.
And that was another question you asked. What's the difference between distance and homeschooling? And so many people think, look, I just was watching the news yesterday or the other day with all the snow and heard parents say, I'm homeschooling. It was so nice to take a break and play in the snow. I guarantee you, those parents were not homeschooling under our homeschooling law. They just had their kids at home, doing distance ed.
Right. Yeah, there's a big difference between distance learning and homeschooling, and I would like you to explain that.
It's really the difference of who's in charge.
Right.
So instead, the school, the teacher is giving you your work and you have to do it. You have attendance, you have these live meets, you have work you have to turn in, and that's what people are fighting against. I've got 3, 5 kids in different grades. They all have different times to sign on. This teacher expects this teacher expects that. Oh my God, Canvas went down. I don't know what to do. My kid isn't learning anything. I have to work. I find out they're not doing anything. That's distance ed.
That's stressful.
That is stressful.
These poor parents, I'm telling you.
Honestly, if you have daycare provided, if you can find a way to keep your kids home safe, get rid of the distance ed, spend an hour or two with them at night when you come home. You'd already be doing it, checking up on them, and do some fun learning. Your kids are going to be so far ahead of everyone else who is just struggling or not even signing in, and they're going to love learning.
One question I did want to ask was to recircle back to the difference between charter and magnet. Can you go over that with me?
So a magnet school is still run by the school district. So it's a Clark County School District school. A charter school. So let's say you and I had a great idea. We wanted to start a school all about nature and outdoors. We could come together, find like-minded friends, find a teacher or a principal who has experience in this method, and we can start our own application to form a charter school. Now, this has lots of paperwork, lots of, checks and balances. It's a huge system. But at the end of the day, if we check marked all the boxes, we could open up our own forest nature themed charter school, which gets public funding. But we have chosen our own board, and that board regulates how we run our school.
Okay.
So let's say, geez, this curriculum isn't working so great, for math for third grade. We go to our board and we say, look, this math curriculum isn't working so great for math in third grade. What are our options? Our board then goes to its sponsor, which is the State Public Charter School Authority Board in most cases. And we look at different options for math for third grade. So we have that flexibility.
Nice.
And it's at a local level. So it allows for a lot more local participation, more unique ideas, but there's still those standards we have to meet. You'll see in charter schools, they're still doing the MAPS testing. They're still doing the ACTs. They're still doing all of that because there's funding attached. And so there still has to be that accountability.
Okay.
Yeah. So the magnet schools are still under the district, and they still have to adhere to what, Clark County School District Board says. Might have their own theme.
I see. Okay. So that's why you see a lot of magnet schools actually inside of CCSD high schools.
Yeah. So they might be a little pilot program. So a lot of times they're inside a Clark County School District school, and it's funded to do that specific theme, like pre-med or robotics. So often they're pulling from their own school. Now they can pull from other schools as well.
Interesting. And I did want to point out, charter and magnet, you do not have to be zoned for a school. You just apply and hope to get in.
Yeah. Likewise, there's also not transportation for most of our charter schools. We have one charter school, Imagine, at Mountain View that has busing, but for the most part, it is not. So that's where you really want to connect with other parents, Facebook groups, and find carpooling avenues. Maybe you drive down, another mom drives back, whatever, because there is no busing.
Now, back to your homeschooling. How do sports work? I get a lot of questions like, well, but I want my child to be athletic. They love basketball. Can you go into that? Because there's definitely a way to do it.
Yeah. So I don't know about the COVID time because they're canceling
Right.
sports. Okay? So let me be clear about that. But our laws very specifically say that homeschool children can participate in public school sports. Like,
The school they're zoned for, though, right?
hmm,
Is it just the school they're zoned for?
school they're zoned for. Now,
Okay.
your charter school kids can as well. If your charter school doesn't have that sport, your charter school kids can also go to their zone school.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So a lot of charter schools don't have all the sports.
Hmm.
Then the exception to your zone school, let's say my zone school is Cheyenne and they don't offer skiing or they don't offer archery. If they don't offer the sport I want, archery, then I'm going to go to the next school that offers that sport.
Okay, so you're not stuck with what you get. You can continue to search it out.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's fantastic.
School doesn't offer it because they want all kids to be able to do archery, or in Northern Nevada, all kids to be able to ski, but it's not cost productive for every school to offer that.
Absolutely. Oh, that's wonderful. So, what if you're in homeschooling and you're not so keen on, let's say, science? Would you be able to enroll your child into a CCSD science class?
Again, pre-COVID,
Right.
law, actually during COVID, the law says yes, if there's space available.
Okay.
COVID, I don't know what the teachers are thinking about space available. I really don't know. I would still fight for it, but I don't know what ground we have to stand on as far as space available. But yes, in general. So, but I encourage people not only to look at their district school, that puts you in a place of having to drive there, 5 days a week for 40 minutes and
True.
road, adhere to their, whatever their attendance policy. There are so many things within the community, if you look for them, from neighbors to clubs to homeschool groups, where we can find specialized learning that you don't always have to go to your school for it.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask because we've mentioned COVID a few times, and I just have a sneaky feeling this is going to happen. What is the law or the approach to the folks that pulled their kids out this year due to COVID and want back in? Can they come back in mid-year, or do they have to wait to the next year to stop homeschooling? How does that work?
So public schools have to take your child, whether you're homeless, whether you only speak Russian, whether it's the middle of the year, it doesn't matter. Public schools have to take your children.
Oh,
Period. Now, what most homeschool, especially these families that just pulled out this year,
mm-hmm.
what a lot of them don't know is they're going to have to provide a report card to show that they actually did something so that their kids aren't held back. And, your principal isn't going to want to hold anybody back anyway, but they are going to have to show a report card. So
How do you make a report card?
go on Microsoft Word, go on Excel spreadsheet, type in little Susie's name, the classes you taught her, and her grade. Hit print.
So okay. So it's not very official?
It's official in the sense that you're the legal director,
Uh-huh.
therefore you're furnishing it. You're attesting to the fact this is what we've done.
Do they have to test or anything so they can be placed?
No, not usually. No, it's going to be age appropriate for the most part.
Okay.
Unless, so what we have seen a lot of is I want to pull my child out, advance him, or I want to pull my child out and he's not doing well. I want to keep him back. That's a hard discussion. I can't guarantee any principal is going to skip your kid or hold your kid back. That's up to the principal. And so you can go in and say, listen, even before COVID, he's had, trajectory of not doing well. Look at all the responses to intervention the teacher has had to provide. I really need him tested, or I really want him held back. Fair discussion. I think every teacher next year is going to have the majority of the classroom coming in having done nothing this school year. And they're not going to hold everyone back. They're not. They can't. So it's going to be an uphill battle next year for you guys to deal with all the kids who might not have learned much.
It's going to be different. It's definitely an adjustment. This is all new. I mean, it's all new.
Yeah. But on the flip side of that, we're seeing families who love the freedom of homeschooling who want to continue.
Absolutely. I think that's great because really this isn't something that they ever considered.
Exactly. It's really letting people know, A, what homeschooling is, and B, that they have options. That's all I care about. Know your options.
So is there any, if you have a student that is graduating high school who has been homeschooled, are colleges less likely, more likely, or don't care?
I don't think they care. I had an admissions officer from UNLV in one of my introduction to homeschooling workshops. She said she feels like colleges have accepted homeschoolers as the norm for the last 20 years.
Oh.
I had a recruiter from Princeton in one of my workshops. She said, listen, Ivy League schools like Princeton aren't all about academics. They're 50% academics, 50% who are you? Why are you unique? Why are you different? And that's one of the freedoms that homeschooling gives you, is the flexibility to find out who you are, what interests you have, and go hog wild with them.
Very true.
So yeah, homeschooling has become so much more mainstream. Our universities, our military, FAFSA, everybody's accepting homeschoolers.
That's fantastic. Now, the question that I personally think is ridiculous, but it's still being brought up as though it is a regular common fear. Socialization. You knew it was coming.
And honestly, the parents who are having their kids stay in their house all this year and haven't left their homes since March of last year are doing so much more damage to their kids than what us traditional homeschoolers do. Because as a traditional homeschooler, we know there are support groups out there.
Oh, yeah.
We know there are days to go bounce at Gravity and days to go to, flipping out or gymnastics or, go play at the park, get together with other parents. So socialization really was one of those myths that came about in the 80s, maybe even the beginning of the 90s, when there weren't really homeschooling laws in place in every state. And so you were kind of hiding your kids at home. We're homeschooling, But there are so many great homeschooling laws in place now, you don't have to hide. And nobody is hiding. I haven't hidden in 27 years. I have not hidden. There's always going to be those people, those families who love to stay at home and never go out. You're going to find them in public school. They're just a little off.
I have to say, my kids don't like to leave the house. COVID was the best thing they ever thought could happen to them. And
so, when you're homeschooling or in public school, there are just those families that might be a little weird from grandma, grandpa, all the way down. It has nothing to do with homeschooling. You might love to be home. That has nothing to do with homeschooling. It really was just a myth, and it is still spouted about these days. Even when I'm out in public, when I'm somewhere, they'll say, how do your kids get socialization? And I'm like, do you not see the 10 kids with me?
Right. Yet we do have a lot of homeschooling groups for all different kinds of backgrounds, ideologies, religions even. It seems like there's a group for everybody and then some. So I've never felt alone when I was doing homeschooling. There was always well, there was always you, but we could always ask anybody, and everybody was so kind and happy to help.
Yeah, it really is a community. It's like any other community. You know, you love Jeeps. Okay, you get with your Jeep buddies. You know,
Right.
you get with your breastfeeding buddies. Any kind of support is so helpful, especially in the homeschooling realm.
So, what do you think are the overall perks of being a homeschooling family?
Ah, the freedom to travel or sleep late and or individualize an education. I mean, freedom is just the end all be all. My family lives back east. We travel for a month every year and go visit them. You know, with no worries about anything. Um, it's skiing weather. We can go ski if we want to. You know, we don't have to worry about, oh no, missing attendance. So just the freedoms are so wonderful.
And you haven't seen any kind of delay, or they're just trucking along on their educational path?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Really, the kids we're hearing all the complaints from are the public school kids. It is so rampant how everybody is not happy doing the distance ed. And I just really feel like so many people would have so much pressure taken off of them if they knew about homeschooling. I forgot to
Absolutely.
do my website. So I made a website, my name, elisawahl.com. And on it, I offer myself to the community for workshops. If you have a mommy and me group or a church group, invite me out to speak. Um, if you're sitting home with your husband and you're wondering about how this homeschooling works, set up an appointment with me. I love to talk homeschooling. I have very, very reasonable rates. Um, and I can talk homeschooling all day. So,
This I know is true.
yeah, .com.
Elisa.com or elisawall.com. Um, which I love your website. It is very good. So are there a lot of laws that parents need to know about? I mean, do you find like there's a lot of education that goes in from the parent side to actually learn how to do this
I
successfully?
That's why I have a 2-hour workshop
Got it.
because again, they think it has to look like public school.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
One, to tell them, no, here's your responsibilities and here's what that can look like. And once they hear that, there's a mind shift. I encourage people to go back and look at how you helped your 3 and 4-year-old to learn.
Hmm.
That's what homeschooling is. You used to do it. You used to be okay. You were okay teaching your kid how to talk and walk and potty. Like, those are fundamental things you have to know. And you weren't all flipping out and going, oh, I don't think I can do it. Maybe you were, but not to the extent parents are flipping out about homeschooling.
Well, what about the parents that are scared to teach math? What do you tell them? I'm one of those parents who's absolutely petrified of the M word.
There is so much available online and in the community. So my oldest son wanted to learn Japanese, and not just speaking it, but writing it.
Nice.
Okay, there are things I am not willing to learn to teach. It's
Sure.
not my wheelhouse. Like math is not yours. I want nothing to do with it. So I looked for a tutor and I found one, and I opened up my home for a bunch of kids that wanted such a high level Japanese as he did. And so we got together and we did that. But there are so many programs online now that parents can avail themselves of, and YouTube. YouTube doesn't even cost any money. I I there are so many. I use YouTube. I learned how to change the actuator for my door locks in my car. I
Oh, wow.
learned macrame. I learned so much on YouTube. And then there's things like Outschool.
Mm-hmm.
So many
Out school and what is
out.
it? Udemy.
Mm-hmm. IXL. I mean,
Mhm.
there are so many online platforms to help kids in whatever topic. Really, you don't have to be the main instructor. You just have to be the facilitator. Okay, little Jimmy, here's a great program for math. Okay, little Jimmy, here's a program in the community I'm going to take you to for gymnastics. Okay, little Jimmy, here's a great book we're going to sit down and read.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's awesome. And I do a lot of relearning with my kids. So I'm right there alongside them, relearning things that I swear I never learned before.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't remember them. They didn't stick. It was just like, oh, I'm going to have a test. Let's read it quick. Test A, done, out.
Yeah, we'll just move that on.
Yeah, yeah. So I love the lifestyle, but I also love being with my kids. I love watching them learn. I love introducing them to new topics. So
Absolutely. So people can contact you on your, what's the website again?
ElisaWahl.com, riseresourcecenter.org, or NevadaHomeschoolNetwork.com, or Facebook. I'm all over Facebook.
Yes, you are. So Rise right now, due to COVID, is closed, as in it's not person to person.
It is not person to person. I'm still offering workshops. We still have things like that going on, but we're not offering in-person workshops or even in-person consulting. So when we had our office open, people would stop in all day. We're not encouraging that because we're not there. So,
Right.
but we are taking phone calls, absolutely.
Is the city still doing their homeschooling days on certain days? They give discounts to homeschoolers. Are they still doing that?
Yeah,
Like
so
COVID?
um, Crystal Palace, Gravity, all those things are still going
Which
on.
are also on your website.
Mhm.
Yeah, you guys list them as a calendar and it's fantastic. I love seeing everybody get together. We went ice skating, roller skating, gravity, just like you said. So many fun things to do out with the kids, and no one's there because they're on school.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, usually, or sitting at home on school, I guess.
I go nowhere on the weekend. I'm like, I don't want all this.
It's too busy. There was one more style of schooling I wanted to go over real quickly, and that was the original online schooling, like K-12, Odyssey. Where does that fall in this realm? Is that homeschooling? What do we call that?
So those are charter schools.
Oh,
Odyssey is a charter school sponsored by Clark County School District. K-12, Nevada Connections Academy, those are charter schools sponsored by the State Public Charter School Authority. So there's different sponsors, which means somebody came along, said, I want to open up a school. They had to do appropriate paperwork, fill out those checks and balances in order to get the state funding. Now, when those schools came out, Nevada Homeschool Network was already on the scene saying, whoa, you parents keep calling yourselves homeschoolers. You're not. And then those schools got on board too, because us homeschoolers were over here saying, don't give us funding, don't give us testing. And they're over here saying, no, we want the testing because we want the funding. So we came in and we're like, great, we all agree. There's a line. You're over here, we're over here. And so it was a very concerned effort to tell parents, you're not homeschooling. Even though you're at home, you're being given the schoolwork, you have a teacher, you have a principal, and they have funding. It's free for you. Homeschooling, mom's in charge, mom's paying for it, blah, 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 blah. So it was in everyone's best interest to delineate a line. And I think we've done a great job in that. Over the years, I know people think, man, she is such a, because I'll be like, oh, no, you're not homeschooling. You're in a public school. But because I've done that for so long, I think so many people now know they're not homeschooling.
I hope so. I mean, the differentiation is very important and to be respected as different. So I'm the same. I like to make sure everybody knows what they're working with because it matters.
Now it's coming back again with all these parents pulling out, and everyone wants time for learning or power homeschool.
Right.
So, and those do fall under the homeschooling law, but they're not the only options. But with these parents who think they're doing distance ed and it's homeschooling, we're seeing a whole new group of people that now we need to do that delineation for as well. So yeah, your kids are home doing distance ed provided by your school that you're enrolled in versus over here. So
Right. Where you're creating everything on your own.
or buying it or utilizing it, but not being handed it.
Right. That's perfect. Is there anything that you want to add? I asked all my questions. You're amazing.
Like I said at the beginning, I think parents need to know their options. Even if you've got a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, know your options. You may get in a school, it may be the best experience. I'm happy for you. But if it's not a great experience, please know homeschooling is an option. It's an option available to every single person, not the elite, not the rich, to anyone who is the parent or guardian of a child.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Elisa. I'm so happy that you were able to have time to talk to me today. I really appreciate
Yeah.
it.